Hey guys, back again. This video is going to kind of piggyback on the one that I just released yesterday, which was about misconceptions I had in getting a literary agent. Now I want to talk about misconceptions that I had about going on submission. Oh man, submission. That's basically how being on submission is. Here's 5 things that I've learned since being on submission that I wish that I knew when I was querying. Number 1, I had no idea how book advances work. Now, disclaimer, I still don't really know how book advances work. I've never been paid for a novel. So take that with a grain of salt, but I've started doing a lot more research into it now that I'm represented, and wow, it is completely different than what I expected. When I was querying, thought that you would get one beautiful big lump sum, here's $50,000 right away. Here you go, it's yours. And now we're going to publish your book. Well, I mean, first of all, from the moment that you sign the contract to the moment that your book actually ends up in stores, it's usually about 2 years. So keep that in mind. Even if you sign a book contract tomorrow, 2 years. Now, let's talk about the book advance. You don't get one lump sum. They actually divvy it out into payments. Now, I went in and talked to a couple literary agents and conferences since I got represented. Obviously, I wasn't pitching them because I'm already represented. So I asked them about the industry instead and what roughly kind of advance I could expect. $20,000 is average, I would say. The literary agent that I was speaking with said that she wouldn't go lower than $5,000, but that's a pretty far cry from the $100,000 that I was so sure I was going to get when I started on submission 2 years ago. So keep that in mind. $5,000 split out over 3 payments. Because they give you one when you first sign the contract, they give you another when you deliver the book, and then they give you another. Sometimes, usually it's just the 2, but sometimes there's a third one that happens somewhere else in that process. So if you're divvying up $5,000 3 times, how much money is that really? How much money are you really going to see in your pocket from that point on? Not even counting the 25 or 30% of that sum that you're going to need to put away for taxes because now you're an independent contractor. Keep all that in mind. I mean, that really means something. That advance is going to go real fast if all you get are $5,000, even $20,000. I mean, divvy that up into 3 payments and then take away 30% of it. How much are you really getting, And the other thing to remember about book advances is that bigger is not always better, because if it's a really big advance, say they give you $50,000 and your book only sells $20,000 worth of stock, I mean, you're never going to see royalties for that book. There are no royalties going to pay out for that book. And it kind of puts you in a bad position because now the publishing company will be less willing to take a risk on you later on if the first book that they paid $50,000 for because they thought it was going to be a bestseller, if it doesn't sell, they think that it's a reflection on you. And whether or not your next book will sell. So they might offer you considerably less, or they might not even sign you again for another book just because you have not paid out the way that they were expecting you would. So advances can be pretty tricky. It's good to get some more research done into them. I'm going to link a whole bunch of stuff below about the truth of literary advances from people who are a lot smarter than me. So please, please, please go check out those links down below and educate yourself on that, because I wish that I had. Okay. Number 2, I kind of assumed that being on submission was like querying, where if one editor passed on my novel in a publishing house that I really wanted, we could submit to another one. That's not true. I mean, your agent chooses an editor based off of your book and what this editor likes to read, and hopefully they match up. That's the agent's job, is to find editors that match with those things. But if the editor rejects you, you got to move on. You can't resubmit to that same publishing house. Your agent won't do that. It's bad etiquette, and your agent is going to need to find other people to submit to instead, and you have to think of how many publishing houses. I mean, there's the big 5, and then they all have just 1,000 imprints, right? But you go through those imprints pretty quickly when you're on submission. You get a rejection, your agent sends out 3 more. Suddenly at the end of a year, you've submitted to basically everybody and you're getting rejections left and right. You can't resubmit to those houses. You have to have a new book if you want to submit to those. So say you've really been hoping for HarperCollins and you submit to all of their imprints that apply to your book. You know, your agent sends out all those emails and you get rejections from every single one. The only way that you're going to get on with HarperCollins at that point is if you write a new book and go out on submission a second time. Which brings me to point number 3. You can't go on submission with more than one book at a time, unless it's in a different genre. Now again, and I want to stress this so much, everything that I'm going to talk about in this video is circumstantial. This is my experience with my agent, but I've learned about the industry by talking to a lot of people. Some agents do it differently. You might get an agent who lacks at all of these rules. I don't think that that's implausible. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. My agent won't go on submission with more than one book at a time because it's poor. Again, it's poor etiquette. During the time that I was on submission with that young adult book, she told me that I was not able to go on submission with a second young adult book. I'm not able to send out that much of the same type of content. We were able to go on submission with another middle grade book, so we will be doing that here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, but I was not able to do 2 young adult books side by side. So this is hard because when you're on submission, you want to be writing new books, but for what? You know, I mean, you can't go on submission with more than one book at a time, and if you do go on submission with a second book, it's got to be a second book in a different genre. So maybe now's the time to stretch your writing muscles and try something new. But if you're really into like the adult fantasy space and that's really where you want to be, might be time to find some new hobbies because you're going to be waiting for a while. It's always good to have some books in the shelf. I think that that's a really good thing. But for me personally, it made more sense to go and pursue other things that made me happier overall. Number 4, I didn't understand how removed I'd be from the submission process. I don't do anything. I mean, I really don't. You know, that's the beauty of having a literary agent is that you finish the book, the two of you edit the book back and forth a couple times, and then you send the finished product off to your agent and say, let me know if you hear something. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing else to do. It's not like querying where every spare moment I was researching new agents and every spare moment I was editing my submission document and every spare moment I was really just like looking up who I needed to submit to and why. You can't do that. You know, as the author, you get to sit in your house and wait. And that's your job. You know, that's why I stressed so hardcore finding something else to do, because in the querying process, you can be very involved. For 3 years during querying, I was a querying author. That's it. That's what I did. I did flight attendanting to make money, and then I was a querying author on the side. And that was all I did for 3 years. And then I got on submission, and now I have nothing to do. I have nowhere to go. And that's a bit of culture shock for me, to be honest. I like having things to do, which is why I started a YouTube channel. Hi! But I like to find ways to stay busy, so that was actually something that I really struggled with. Just learning that I needed to step back from the process. It's not my problem anymore. That's hard. That's hard. Thing number 5, how long it takes. Oh my God, you guys. And I know I've mentioned this so long, like so many times, but this process takes forever. Forever. And I'm not even a unique instance. I'm not even a rarity. You know, if I was just the person, oh man, you're taking 3 years to be on, or 2 years to be on submission. Wow, you're really doing poorly. Well, then I kind of be like, man, this sucks for me. But like, at least for you guys, you'll get to go out and do something quickly. But that's not the case. I mean, I'm involved in a Slack writers group of represented authors. There's probably 30 or 40 of us, and we all talk about how long it is taking us on submission, and it's taking a long time. Some of us have gotten book deals. Most of us have not. And it's been us commiserating with each other about how long this process takes. So if you are pinning all of your hopes and dreams on getting a literary agent and being on submission in a week and getting a book deal in a month, that's a recipe for failure. You're not going to be happy. You're gonna be miserable. You know, you can't set your life up like that. You can't base everything in your life around the idea that some editor in New York might pick your book up and pay big money for it. Because again, remember what I said about advances. Even if you get a book deal tomorrow, there's no guarantee that it's going to pay any bills. The way that authors make money is by writing multiple books. I mean, how many books can you write to have all of those royalties start to pile up, and hopefully some of them do well enough that you start making a paycheck? But it takes years, years, years. It takes forever. Be prepared. I really hope that you guys learned something today. I'm sorry to be, I feel like all of this was just bad news. You're on submission. Yay! Oh my God, that's so exciting. I'm sorry if this is all bad news, but I really hope that you learned something. And I encourage you to reach out to writers who are already represented. If this is something that really concerns you, go talk to people who have agents and see how long it took them. Again, every story is different, you know, so just because it took me 2 years doesn't mean it'll take you 2 years, but I think it's important to know the industry standards when it comes to this type of thing. And if you have the time, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to let me know. I get so excited when I see people commenting and interacting with me, like, bring me into AuthorTube, please. Let me be friends with you all. From this point on, now that I have 7 videos, 7 videos on my channel. I've done my week of uploading almost every day, and now I'm going to get into a schedule of once a week. So I'll be uploading every Tuesday evening, and then I'm going to try and do interviews every Friday night. Once again, Tuesday evening are going to be videos like this where I'm talking to you about my experiences and what I've learned. Friday evenings, I'm going to try and bring other authors in so that you can talk to them and find out what's happening there. I might do some live videos at some point. I have some ideas for some like fun, not publishing related topics that I'd like to address at some point, but I kind of wanted to kick off this channel and get some interaction going here. So please stay tuned for that. Tuesday nights will be new videos. Friday nights will be interviews if I can find somebody to interview and figure out how that works. Stay tuned. Anyway, thanks so much, folks. See you next time.